we, the fans, have paid the price for that. Because you can't tell me, and this is where I'm including Ray Farmer in it, you can't tell me Ray Farmer couldn't look at Johnny Manziel in the SEC at his peak and tell me that Ray Farmer thought that he could be the big-time quarterback that they supposedly are after. You can't tell me that. I refuse to believe that. From what I know of Ray Farmer, you can't tell me that. He knows better than that. He played with Randall Cunningham, the acme, the ace, the pinnacle of the mobile, running, passing, dual-threat quarterbacks. So don't tell me he thinks that Johnny Manziel is the equal athletically and possibly football-wise to Randall Cunningham. I don't want to hear that. But I believe that Manziel's being here is primarily driven by the fact that Jimmy Haslam wants a guy like Johnny Manziel due to the fact of the notoriety that Johnny Manziel brings the team, brings the city, all that potential bump. So that's what that is. And so what Bernie Kosars said, I think kind of fits in here. And Mike Pettine kind of agrees with that. He has to, because you can see a clear schism between the organization itself, the auspice, the Cleveland Browns, and the people who run the team on the field. Now, I'm not saying Ray Farmer wanted Johnny Manziel. I'm saying when your boss tells you he wants something, you do your best to get him that. I think they were counting on Brian Hoyer picking up where he left off previous to his injury. And they had not counted as much on or had hoped that the recovery, the rehab wouldn't put as much rust on Brian Hoyer as it has. And I think that's a main factor, because when you think back, J-Rock, to what you saw against Buffalo going into that game last season, what we thought of Hoyer was gets rid of the ball quickly, doesn't make mental mistakes, doesn't take chances, delivers the ball accurately, guy. That was his M.O. I was wondering, what did New England see in Hoyer that made them get rid of him? Except he wasn't overly big. He's not overly athletic. He doesn't have incredible arm talent. That's about it. But other than that, you're looking at a quarterback you can win with, certainly get to the playoffs with. But this year, that hasn't been apparent. And so I think, given that hole in what they were doing, their methodology and how the season was playing out, somebody in that organization thought, and wrongly so, that they should put Johnny Manziel in because he can provide a spark. I'm telling you right now, I'm not wobbling on this. I'm not wavering on it. I'm not waffling on it. Without equivocation, that if Brian Hoyer had played Sunday, they might have lost, but it would not have been 30-0. And my guess is it would have been close as a score or less, a touchdown or less. They would have been that close losing to the Bengals, and maybe even have won, because as has been noted, the last two games that Hoyer played against the Bengals were wins, were convincing wins. Everybody played well. So I don't think that Mike Pettine was really down with Manziel. I think Pettine understands that Hoyer is the better player, probably will be the better player. Now, I can give Manziel this. He's got good athleticism. He's got a strong arm, but it's a scatter arm. He's not accurate right now. He's not on time right now. He's trying to out-athletic the guys he's playing against on the defensive side. In other words, the defensive ends he's playing are better athletes than him at, up to 100 pounds heavier, and they're just as fast, just as quick, stronger, more agile, and he's pretty agile himself. And so that's what he's dealing with in the terms of not only defensive ends, but tackles, linebackers, and safeties. So what's he going to do against the Buffalo Bills, against the Cincinnati Bengals? Nothing but get beaten down. And guess what? There's more of the same on tap on Sunday, because whatever the Panthers lack on offense, they have Luke Kuechly, Star Latulippe, Thomas Davis. I mean, and it goes on and on. So he's going to have to prove himself in the crucible of great defenses. And then after that, he'll get the Baltimore Ravens. But I suspect that it'll take maybe a half, maybe a little bit more for Mike Pettine to get Johnny Manziel out of there when he looks so hopeless, if that's the case, and to try to salvage this season at 9-7 for the Browns if the game is close.
Wow. Okay, let me jump on what you just said there, because, a lot of people take it as a foregone conclusion. And I said yesterday that I understood why you didn't pull Manziel out the other day against Cincinnati, because part of it is you have to suffer through that if anything's going to be learned from it, regardless. I mean, you have to suffer. You have to go, wow, this is what it goes like when it goes really bad. But do you really think that you see a scenario where, say, the first half, 3 quarters goes as poorly as it did last week, where they say, you know what, we've got to do something? Because then you're putting the ultimate stamp of kind of initial failure on the guy. Even if it's obvious, there's a difference between fans seeing it and the organization saying, yeah, this kid's clearly not ready.
Well, I think it depends on how you look at it. And I think Mike Pettine is taking that approach. Would the team feel better going into the offseason at 7-9 and losing their last, 4 or 5 games?
Right.
Or feel better about themselves at 8-8 or 9-7 with Hoyer at quarterback, so that they can set up Johnny Manziel's extended trial in the offseason? No matter what you say, though, or no matter what you think, Johnny Manziel's era has begun. The clock is ticking. Now, whether he's under center for the whole of the remaining 2 games, the whole 8 quarters, every snap, or whether Brian Hoyer comes in and salvages a 500 season or better, I don't know whether, what they think of that. But I would guess that if I were a player on that team, I would want to play with the guy who gave me the best chance to win. Johnny Manziel didn't look like he gave the Browns the best chance to win on Sunday. Not at all. And I think the Browns or Mike Pettine will value the wins over development of a player he clearly could do without in the first place. So I don't think it says anything, though, about Hoyer. If I'm Hoyer, I'm gone, and I believe Hoyer is gone anyway. And if I'm Johnny Manziel, nothing changes. I mean, even if he sits the last 2 games, it only strengthens his resolve to come back better next year, play better out of the gate, keep the job over whoever is in camp. See, that's the main problem. And I think Bernie's comments spoke to this also. The main problem is if any of you guys have listened to my podcast over the last year, I advocated getting a developmental quarterback. I didn't even advocate it. I straight out said that was what they should do. And if they didn't do it, they were incorrect in their thinking and wrong, because good teams, as they develop quarterbacks, even those that are going to become great players in this league, Steve Young, Dan Fouts, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, I can go on and on and on. Each of these players have a modicum of physical ability heading toward the top of that meter, and they have something that a coach doesn't like or a team didn't like going into the draft. You don't look at Zach Mettenberger, Aaron Murray, Derek Carr, Teddy Bridgewater, that whole class of young men that just was drafted, Jimmy Garoppolo, Keith Winning, you don't look at those guys and say, ain't none of them good enough to play for the Browns, so we won't even look at them. They should have had one of those guys or more. Taj Boyd. They should have had somebody. Logan Thomas. They should have had one of 10 guys on their roster with the size, the stature, the arm talent, the thinking ability, Tom Savage, to be an NFL quarterback that you would take a chance on, have him as your third teamer or your practice squad player, have him learning, and never have to think about putting him in the game for a year or two. Meanwhile, Brian Hoyer and somebody else fights it out to start, and then the loser is the backup. That's how successful teams who develop quarterbacks do it. And then you go and you get a good quarterback coach with a reputation for developing quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. And then you develop an offense which is quarterback friendly. Then you go and get players who help that quarterback, a running game, 2 guards, some tight ends, some receivers, to let all that talent marinate together, let it grow together. See, one of the things I think Bernie spoke to also is the fact that their drafting technique is scatterbrained. It's like trying to hit a bullseye target with a shotgun. You may hit it, you may not, but you're going to hit all around it. That's how the Browns draft philosophy has been. They take a defensive end here, wide receiver there, 5th round guard here, 3rd round tackle here, 7th round defensive end there. And they hope to bring together all of this talent, at a high level so that they can play together at a high level for a long time. What that says to me is their philosophy from 99 on has been inept at best and credulous. All of the things that you would never want to be in your personal business affairs, they've employed as purveyors of talent for the Cleveland Browns. I promise you, as there's a God in heaven, that I could definitely come in one off season and turn this thing around. I could. Now, if I can do it sitting in Port St. Lucie, Florida, I guarantee that a football executive worth his salt could do it. And so Bernie, his frustration is not lost on me, because I've been saying this for the last 15 years. Get somebody there who understands the game and can say to the fans, look, we're not going to win. We're not going to win in 2 or 3 years. But after 3 years, we're going to put something together that's going to be nice, because we got to tear this thing down and build it piece by piece by piece. And it doesn't start with a franchise quarterback, because the quarterback may not be available. The culture has to be set. The organization has to be set. This team, for it to win this year, has been nothing short, in my mind, of miraculous. And I think it speaks to the kind of coach, the kind of philosophy, the kind of mindset that Mike Pettine has. And you can see that. I mean, he's talked about the culture of this team since he got here. First day one, out the gate, let's go. Culture of the Cleveland Browns. And that means educating people as to what that culture is. There is no way you can come to a place like Butch Davis. See, he thought he was going to bring that Miami Mets, the Dallas Cowboys. He thought he was going to bring that. No. Like common policy, he thought he was going to superimpose the 49ers tradition over the Cleveland Browns. There's no way you can do that, because the Browns are greater than both the Cowboys. Well, they're equal to the Cowboys, let's say that. And far better than the 49ers as a franchise over time, in my opinion. But, I'm partial, and I will give you that. But they're at least on even footing with every great team ever in the National Football League, at least, and probably above. So you accentuate what you have going